We are living in an extraordinary time. It's an extraordinary time for change and transition. And although the free fall our planet might seem to be in, it is precisely that free fall that grants the greatest degree of opportunity. And so many of the planetary structures that have been in place for tens and thousands of years are coming apart at the seams. And yet, what an incredible opportunity this offers all of us that are treading the path of awakening, and especially for those who have the wisdom to choose the attainment of lifetimes, your enlightenment in this lifetime. And so what I will say, because I think this is important for all of you sitting here to discover. We have the Orient and the traditions of the East and all the magnificent beauty and power of the Buddhist tradition, the Hindu tradition, the Jain tradition, and all the other Taoist traditions and so on that are tens and tens of thousands of years old. The Vedic tradition, or the oldest traditions of cognitive teachings on the planet. I rever them, rever them, rever them. And then we have the Occident, the Western world. We have the Bible that poured out of the Middle East and Rome and Europe and so on, and the Christian traditions that came to the Americas and sought to blend with the Native Americans, or I should say dominate the Native Americans. And so we have this paradox in the Eastern traditions, where the individual is so programmed culturally designed to blend into the whole, to give their all to the whole, to give their all to the guru. And even the student gives their all, the devotee, the dasa, the brahmachari, the sannyasin gives their all to the guru. And then here in America, we have almost the opposite, where every individual now wants their own kingdom. Every individual seeks to be a mogul. Everyone wants their own reign, their own empire, their own regency, etc., etc., etc. But the beauty of this perfection, this difference between the East and the West, if we learn to tame the fierce tiger of the West, if we learn to tame it, if we learn to burn away the ego from the drive of ambition, because here in the West, we have a unique quality of ambition. That fire in the belly that will not stop until a goal or an objective or an innovation has been completed, has been compensated. And so we have the moguls, if you will, of Western society and the power that they held to shape the world. And so now, in reference to the spiritual path, beloveds, the spiritual path, do you see how significant it is to transform that unique Western capacity for ambition to the passion of the soul? Because the passion of the soul is far more powerful than all the ambition of all the egos in the world. And so the passion of a single soul. Feel what I'm saying. Feel the energy of it. The passion of a single soul. Driven to serve God. Driven to serve the planet. Driven with an imperative, with a burning imperative. Do you see? That passion of the soul. Passion of the Christ. Passion of the Master Self. Passion of the ages. Passion of the transcendent being. Passion of timeless soul reality. As compared to the ambition of the common Western mind, even those that have been brilliantly successful and that are currently the world's wealthiest individuals on the planet. But understand, if you will, that to walk the path of enlightenment and to have that glorious unfolding of the 1,000 petals of the matrix of the true human prototype, if you will. As we were conceived from seed to the flowering of the lotus of enlightenment. So can you see how the passion of the soul will not only attain enlightenment, and it is that fire, that passion, that is the very thing that causes the flowering of the lotus of enlightenment to be in its splendorous brilliance of illumination. Do you see? If you can tame that tiger and summon what used to be the ambition to dominate, to prove, to be superior, into that passion of the soul to serve, to heal, to lead, and to be the brilliant minds and innovators that truly aggregate together to create a new global governance, a benevolent governance, with which we can commence to begin to commingle with other advanced civilizations of our star system, as we have transcended our barbaric ways of the past, dear ones, and the ambition to succeed, the survival of the fittest, with the passion to serve, the capacity and the development and the blessing of the flowering of every single soul on earth. So if you feel that to change the planet, the blending of the lights, the blending of the traditions, the empowerment that has been so important for so many spiritual seekers that we have gotten from the sacred traditions of the East. And yet, what are we creating here in the West? Because as the convener, the author of the Royal Path, I am convening something that has never been convened on this planet before. It is coming in from source light, and it has been authored beyond the realms of time, and I'm bringing them in, sent into this planet to be part of this miraculous time when everything is falling apart and the upheaval seems unbelievable, and we can barely believe what we are witnessing the world over. And yet, that same ambition, that ruthless, unleashed ambition that has nearly destroyed the world, as that fire of friction, that disharmonious fire, that self-serving fire, becomes the instrument of the benevolence of the divine. And we begin to tap in to the passion of the soul that not only attains enlightenment as the greatest legacy that a soul can possibly attain on this planet, but then as that glorious flowering, thousand petals, dear ones, IQ of over 200, I would also say. And all that ambition has turned to an infinite wellspring of passion. God passion, divine love, divine power, divine intelligence. Do you see? Then we begin the walk of mastery. So then the process of omni-awakening continues. And enlightenment becomes the springboard for mastery, omni-mastery, and the mastery that will utterly change the face of this earth and the lives of every single world citizen. And those future generations that are yet to be born as well will receive the promise of the Ancient of Days. And so if you feel the promise of the Ancient of Days for this planet, the Shambhala life, the Christ life, do you see Christ-conscious communities emerging all over the world as enlightenment becomes an ever greater endeavor of that passion that has used all of that ambition of past ages and transformed it into the brilliance of the will to good. The will to good. And so I have touched upon a number of principles, of ideals for you to contemplate. I have talked about the beauty and opportunity of a world that's falling apart at the seams to create a new world out of its ashes. I have talked about the perfection of passing this incredible illumination from the East to the Western seekers that are rising at the forefront of awakening globally. I have talked about that transformation of ambition to passion and of ego to the master self, the soul, the illumined timeless presence. Do you see? And I have talked about the legacy of enlightenment and the flowering of a genius IQ. Do you see? The super genius is the enlightened state. So behold, if you will, as I call forth for all of you that begin to feel that stirring inside of yourselves, that feel that stirring. Are you called? Is this your lifetime? Is enlightenment the legacy, the path that you are here to walk, and thereby walking it? Is full mastery also your legacy, because it is enlightened mastery that is going to change the world, beloveds? From the ground up, from the first molecule of where even benevolent governance begins, that is beyond all religions, and it's just heart-centered, of how we as human beings should treat one another. How we should be the family of light that we were conceived to be. And so with this thought in mind of what is possible and what is also destined, because enlightenment is the legacy of the new potential. As I see you leaning towards me, eyes sparkling, smiles full of hope, each of you. Just like with the grins. The promise of the Ancient of Days is being awakened within the lotus of your very hearts as I speak. Close your eyes, dear ones. Let us be together in that samyama of a unified intention, of the new potential and the legacy of enlightenment in this lifetime. For as many souls as possible and beyond even that. Blessings, blessings, blessings.